Black supremacy. With this particular video, I want to dismantle astrological myth with astrological truth. You got astrology and you got astrologic. So let's go in on this. Now, astrology, dealing with mapping out your destiny and your existence as it correlates to different celestial bodies that are moving in the cosmos. Let's talk about this. Now, when you deal with astrology, you believe that a particular planet represents you. You believe that one of these celestial bodies, or how these celestial bodies correlate with the day that you were born, says something that is significant about you, that could give you revelation into yourself, into your identity, and into your existence. Now, is this a myth? Or is this the truth? Now, for one, those who deal with astral logic realize that they are the darkness that the celestial bodies are moving in, which represents infinite space and infinite time. So there's no limit to space and time, and that the celestial bodies that you see exist in an infinite space that is uncalculatable, that has no history, that is beyond history, thus has no cycles, has no algorithm, because it is pure nothingness. So I'd like to simplify by just telling you that my astrological sign is the darkness. My astrological sign is the nothingness. Not the celestial bodies that are reflections of how light travels in infinite darkness. But my sign is the infinite darkness, which is God Himself. My astrological sign is God. My astrological sign is the infinite beingness itself. Now let's go in on this. Astrologic versus astrology. Now, ask somebody who teaches astrology. They're supposed to be a master of astrology. Next time they ask you what your sign is, you look at them and tell them, you tell me, if you've mastered astrology and mapping out how the celestial bodies move and correlate with human existence, then you should be able to tell me what my signs are by looking at me, because you've mastered it. See, a true doctor, a master physician, can look at your symptoms and tell you what the illness is. That's how you know it's a science. They can say, well, you pretty much had this because of these particular symptoms. A true mechanic can look at the symptoms of a car and tell you what's wrong or what's going on with the car. So if astrology is a science, then they should be able to look at you and look at how you are, and then they should be able to draw a map of your astrological birth chart, meaning that it should work in reverse ways. If they're a master, they should be able to draw your birth chart and then ask you what your astrological sign is, or the day you was born, and then match that to the astrological chart that they map, that they made off just of knowing who you are. If it was a science, if it was a science, it would work in the reverse manner. they would be able to tell you. Let me use Astrologic to dismantle the myth of astrology. So now they say it's a science, but there are many different types of charts and even astrological systems dealing with the Mayans, Intec, Aztec. It goes on. There are many different astrological systems, Chinese astrology. But the one that is most popularly used by those who consider themselves to be conscious is the Babylonian one, dealing with Greece, Sumeria, Mesopotamia. They're dealing with a Babylonian astrology. They want to get out of Babylon, but they're using Babylonian astrology. How the Babylonians mapped out or gridded out how they can perceive the celestial bodies moving. They're not even using the astrology that was created by the Dogons. We just going right back to Babylon. So they're using these charts that have been pre-created and pre-utilized. But if you in tune with the universe and you in tune with the cosmos, because you understand the planetary bodies, you're in touch with them, they're yourself, and so within, so is out, then you wouldn't need to use nobody's chart. You wouldn't have to go online and search for a chart or use a particular type of chart that some European, Caucasian, or Babylonian is using or distributing, manufacturing, or creating. You wouldn't have to use that because you yourself is in tune with nature and you're in tune with the universe and the universal body. So you can actually create your own astrological chart or astrological system. We say that astrology is dealing with the solar system. But every time you see a system, it's a matrix. So it shouldn't be called the solar system. It should be called the solar matrix. A matrix to trap your soul in, because you are an infinite being. There are multiple solar systems, multiple galaxies, billions of planets. And you're just using 12 or 13 to understand your infinite self as a being. You're only using 13 planets or 12 planets in the zodiac. Why would an infinite being limit themselves to how 12 or 13 planets navigate? And the correlation between those 12 or 13 planets. That's a matrix. That's limited. That's a limited construct. Now you need someone to look at how these celestial bodies are correlated. They need to analyze your chart. They need to look at your chart, and then they need to come to their own conclusion about who and what you are and what your destiny is or what stands out about you by how they assess your chart. But that's based on their speculation, and that's based on their consciousness. So now they are imposing their consciousness on your reality by trying to tell you something about yourself through their assessment of an Babylonian astrological chart or zodiac. So now they're going to impose their consciousness to tell you, because your moon is in Taurus and your sun is in Leo, that this specifically means something about you. This is what I'm getting from you. I'm going to tell you about yourself. I'm going to put you in a box. I'm gonna give you a matrix of limitation on how to perceive who you are and what you like and what your interests are and what you do and what your hang-ups are, what your problems are, what your challenges are. I'm gonna give you a matrix through my assessment of this astrological chart, through my perception. But then we go and talk about quantum physics, and we talk about where the scientist doesn't even see anything outside of their own perception. That what the scientist is seeing in the subatomic world is his own consciousness. There is no outside of consciousness in quantum physics. There's no outside of perception, outside of the perceiver. And that exists in the subatomic world. That the subatomic world forms itself according to the perception of the scientists. So you tell me what's happening in the macrocosmic universe that is likened to the subatomic world. You don't think that's shaping itself according to the perception of the scientists? You don't think that it's the horoscope, that it is formulating itself based on the scope of the human consciousness that's perceiving it? So you mean to tell me that when you get through somebody's horoscope or somebody's birth chart, that your scope is forming their reality through your perception, and through them accepting your perception, you're now co-creating their reality with them and for them? But they think it's an astrological science, because they believe this is happening outside of their consciousness, that there's something definitive about how these celestial bodies are moving through infinite darkness, and the cycles of their movement, the algorithms of their movement says something definitive about who they are. So they accept certain limitations. They believe they are Taurus, they believe they are Gemini, they believe they are Leo, they believe that they are these figments of Babylonian imaginations. And somehow their life is limited to this pseudo-science, to this myth. And they take on these forms and these characteristics, and they limit who they could connect to and who they could relate to and how their life is going to manifest, not realizing that their consciousness is creating their reality, that as you think it, so is it. That your astrology don't mean absolutely nothing, because your real astrological sign is supreme darkness, of which all things have come from, and all things shall return. So the movement in and out of darkness is the only relevant movement. The contraptions of coming in and out of consciousness and in and out of darkness, and the arising of thoughts and self and perception and identity is the only thing that is relevant as it is being instantaneously and simultaneously created. You manifest your reality by what you acknowledge to be real, what you give your energy and focus through. Your true scope is your focus. The true horoscope is how much horror is in your scope, or how much bliss is within your scope. So we take these 12 to 13 planets in an infinite universe, and we correlate them. So we let somebody else tell us, well, this is who you're supposed to be with. This ain't who you're supposed to be. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're supposed to like. I'm telling you that you create your own reality. You're the driver of your ship. You determine through your consciousness your life. You are not victim of some astrological system, Babylonian system. That the only system is the one that you attach yourself to, just like the Matrix, just like the white man system. Once you attach yourself to it, then you're limited to how much you attach yourself to it. And the same thing with an astrological system or any other system. You're an infinite being. See, there is, in an infinity of it all, there is no movement in the universe. And I'm gonna go further in this on part 2. But just on part 2, just on part 1, let me hit you with this before I go. The universe is infinite, and that which is truly infinite has no movement. That movement itself is an illusion of perception, because that which is infinite cannot move, because there is no space for it to move in. There is no space within inside of it. That space itself is an illusion. That space itself is the only space is consciousness. Nothing in the physical universe has space. Space does not exist. Space needs perception. So nothing is moved. There are no bodies or planets moving. The only thing that's moving is human perception. That's how we travel. Through infinite space. Through consciousness. Because the planets are not moving. There's nowhere for it to move to. Because if it's all one infinite body, You see planets, but the darkness is one infinite body. And in time it appears that it moves, but if it ends up in the same place ultimately in cycles, then it never really moved anywhere. And its movement is part of a greater non-moving reality. Its movement is a part of a greater non-movement. And that movement is an illusion that needs perception to connect itself to. Movement needs perception. Non-movement needs perception. And that perception becomes the movement. There's nowhere for the planets to move to. The movement of the planets is the non-movement of darkness throughout the span of the illusion of time. And if you look how much the planets move, and you see the cycles of their movement, you'll see how much they haven't moved. You'll see how it continues to remain the same. So you have to attach yourself to the illusion of movement, the illusion of change, to really base your existence based on astrology. You're an infinite being that have always been here. And you can create your reality through your own consciousness. Now, you're not limited. That's my whole point that I'm telling you. You're not a limited entity. Use astral logic. Come from the nothingness. Don't let some Babylonians write the script or determine the script of your existence. Come from the nothingness. Come from the blackness. Come from a space of the supremacy of the blackness. You're greater than any correlation of any celestial bodies. You can infinitely correlate yourself and make infinite correlations within infinite darkness, and none of them will suffice as who you are. It's just how you have perceived for that moment. It's just what you have entertained for that moment. And what you call astrology, it's just entertaining ideas and different perceptions and facets of multi-dimensional consciousness. This KingNoble Black Supremacy. Signing out. Join my website, www.KingNobleblacksupremacy.com.